Obama was partying with Justin Timberlake and then decided to put down that drink and go over and tell the people, hey, you know what? We just got bombed. Terrorism.
Bill,
scare. Boo.
Bill, while you go do some research about the Miranda rights warning, we're going to actually bring on an awesome guest. And this guy is one of the first guys I talked to in the alternative media when I started MediaMonarchy.com about 7 years ago. One of the first people I kind of talked to was a guy named Doug Owen, who ran, at the time, we were all small. He ran a site called Blacklisted News, and we kind of hooked up in probably 2006 or 7, and again, now here 5-6 years later, I'm so happy I can bring someone like Doug Owen of Blacklisted News onto this nationally syndicated show.
And we're so proud to have him on. Doug, welcome to Ground Zero.
Well, thank you, guys. Wow, what a great way to kind of highlight our relationship. I've listened to every one of your mixtapes there, James Evan Pilato. So big fan of Clyde Lewis's work as well. So it's good to be with you guys.
Thank you.
Doug, let me just ask you as we start to get into this, and I think we have to now start to get into the nitty-gritty of a lot of this. So I'll just bring it up. And this was the question I asked earlier, as we had one suspect dead and now the other suspect in custody. So what does this answer about what the military/intelligence officers, what were they at the finish line of the Boston Marathon? What does the capture of these two alleged terrorists have to do with the obvious military private contractor operation going on at the Boston Marathon?
Okay, well, let's look at the Boston Marathon. It's an international sporting event. Now, if you've watched the coverage of the Super Bowl, we know that the U.S. military, as well as private security contractors, Blackwater types, now that corporation is Academy, but nonetheless, we know that they are there. They're very present, very prevalent in today's modern post-9/11 world, if you will. And so there are millions of dollars, not just spent by the U.S. military with contracts for these type of guys. I mean, we've heard all about them. Jeremy Scahill has a great new documentary that's winning reviews across the sphere, if you will, in Cannes and other film festivals about this specific issue. So I don't think it's that shocking that these guys would be there. What I find to be shocking is that we have this guy, Ali Stevenson. He's the University of Mobile's cross-country coach, and he has come on record twice saying that there was a loud announcement that there was a drill being conducted and that there was a huge presence of bomb-sniffing dogs as well as police types at the beginning of the race and at the finish line, very close to where the bomb was placed. So the heavy police presence is not that shocking, but what's really bugging me and why I have a lot of questions about this event is that at the same time, the Boston Globe was reporting that near the library, the Boston PD was doing a controlled explosion drill. Mm-hmm. Now, if you have all of the bomb-sniffing dogs and the bomb units doing a drill, which is unprecedented, it makes no sense during an international event like the Boston Marathon, why would there be such a huge presence of these guys at the marathon itself? So I think the question that I have, and I think it leads me to believe that many of these people were private contractors and not necessarily police, and that while the police were running a drill, you had this private security onlooking this event.
And they were in khakis, and I noticed with a lot of pictures that were at least released before the suspects were fingered by the media and by the government, that these contractors, these security contractors in khakis and with boots, were actually part of the sniper group known as the Kraft Group, and they were wearing the Punisher skull. And the reason why I know that the Punisher skull is significant is because I received in the mail from some organization a challenge coin that said CIA sniper, and then on the other side was the Punisher logo. Several people standing around that area, including near the suspects, were wearing those outfits, were wearing those insignia. Did you see that?
It's very interesting considering who brought about one of the originators of Kraft International, and that's none other than the now assassinated Chris Kyle, the former sniper hero that we just recently grieved across the nation. A huge outpouring for this guy. So they aren't actually a private mercenary contractor corporation, but they do sell swag. They do have hats. They do have gear, and the people that would buy that kind of headgear and that kind of stuff, people that are aficionados that are into it, would actually be private military contractors. So that, I think, even lends more credence to the fact that these guys were on the ground and that these guys are private contractors running security. Also, I saw a few pictures with some of the old school Blackwater paws. Now, Blackwater is no longer in existence, but anyone that is aware, or other security and intelligence agencies around the world, would see these pictures and know exactly what's happening. So I think this is a tell. I think this is a signal to the powers that be that these are the same people that assassinated Chris Kyle. Now, that's just my speculation, but I think that there's a lot more to it. The symbology is very, very creepy. And, of course, the ties to the Punisher.
It is. And earlier today, actually, Interpol issued a global security alert in connection with the Boston Marathon bombings at the request of U.S. authorities. So it's what we see in a way going on is I can't help but look at the the central bank-backed enforcement arms of the different gangster groups that have their turf wars sometimes have to argue and bump each other off.
Well,
and we see.
Here's a really interesting thing. The guy that called in earlier, I think it was Bill, that was claiming that Obama has done wrong and really just kind of being a sycophant for the police state, should look at one of Barack Obama's good friends. His name's Bill Ayers, and he used a very similar type weapon, a shrapnel nail bomb, to get his political viewpoints across. And he's not considered to be a terrorist by Barack Obama or his wife, who are personal friends with he and his wife, but they consider him to be an intellectual elite, and they love him. So it's interesting to look at some of the strange bed partners of the Obama administration. And I'm no fan of Dick Cheney or George Bush either.
And in a way, this almost looks like, this is my speculation, that this is some kind of almost pushback from the Cheneyak neocon faction that says, oh yeah, Obama, you don't want to push the international war of terror? We're going to force your hand to now you have to deal with international terror.
When we're dealing with the bankster-backed security people standing right there in front of Cornerstone International, I tend to think that this is what was going on, that they were doing it, and everybody's saying, Clyde, you're wrong about the organized crime and Cornerstone International being a target. I don't know if I'm wrong yet. I'm still wondering if Cornerstone International was part of this, because on that day, tax day, and on that day, gold dropped and the stock market dropped, and it's funny how that building was right there, ground zero, where that bomb went off. More from Doug Owen coming up on Ground Zero. Don't go away. We've got more to come.
Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero with me, James Evan Pilato. He's my producer and Media Monarchy host and creator. Also, Doug Owen from Blacklisted News, a well-known source for many people who are trying to find the truth in news. You know, I was just reading, Doug, that the suspect was naturalized on Benghazi Day. The day of the Benghazi raids, he became a naturalized citizen. I find that very creepy and weird. What about his family? Who are these guys, and who is this guy? Because, I mean, I was told that there were two different suspects. They changed the suspects' names, and then they became Chechen terrorists overnight.
You know, it's really interesting, and I haven't said this yet or put this out there, but there was a huge cache of images. Infowars.com, blacklistednews.com, and many others received this cache of images of the ground zero photography from independent individuals with no attribution whatsoever. And I am pretty sure that Glenn Beck's The Blaze is actually the one that's disseminating this information, which really begs a lot of questions. But
well, he says he's got some information that's just going to blow everybody away on Monday about this detainee that was apparently shoved off to Saudi Arabia without anybody knowing.
Sure. And that's what leads me to speculate that is where the release of this info, this data dump of the images, this cache came from, because of that exact announcement. So I don't know. He's a good guy for promoting his brand and his product. And so he's definitely, I think, mimics shows like yours and many others that are truth tellers.
People have told me that he mimics me a lot, and I kind of wonder sometimes. But go ahead.
Well, yeah, he absolutely does. I think that when you look at what he has branded himself off of, it's exactly what yourself and many others, and I like to include myself in that, and James as well, originators of this, I wouldn't say conspiracy movement, but people that are questioning and looking and sharing information, kind of the beginning of the blogosphere or the alternative media.
Yeah,
and so he's taken that to a whole new platform.
Mm-hmm. He's co-opted it. But Doug, before we run out of time, what do you think the families are saying about these guys?
Well, the mother has already come out on RT. I saw that just moments before the show, and she is saying that they had ties with the FBI, that they had been working with the FBI for years, and it's not out of the question. You have these guys that are apparently going to some kind of Muslim training, and so it'd be really easy for them to get picked up and get worked into a patsy program. So that's what mom and dad are saying. Well, not to mention some threats from dad.
Right. Well, we talked about this too on a show earlier where we were saying the FBI sure has been good at creating these bomb scares, and then they bring the terrorist or they bring the alleged terrorist to the bombing site, tell them to take the cell phone and dial it in, and nothing happens. Maybe this time it did happen, and they didn't know that they were a part of the drill. Doug, we're out of time. Thank you so much for being on the program. Thank you so much for Blacklisted News. We love you, and we love your work.
You as well.
Take care, buddy. You have a great night.